Hi there. Let's talk Cain Velasquez and the unfortunate event that happened that resulted in his arrest on 10 felony counts. I'm going to talk to you about the 10 felony counts and also the potential penalties that Mr. Velasquez is facing. And you know me, I like to look at the court documents. So we're going to look at the felony complaint and I'm going to walk you through it. Who am I? I'm Michelle Hagan. I'm a former California prosecutor. I'm also a legal analyst, and you may recognize me because I provided a lot of legal analysis on the Elizabeth Holmes case. And I'm also a former prosecutor of child abuse and child molest. So I get it. So in this case, I'll give you a little background before I get into the complaint and the charges. So Mr. Velasquez has a relative, a young boy under the age of 10, who was apparently molested, allegedly, by a guy by the name of Harry Goularte. Mr. Velasquez is accused of following Mr. Goularte, high-speed, 11-mile high-speed chase through San Jose, down 101, when Mr. Goularte was on his way to get his ankle monitor because he was released a couple days prior by the judge over the DA's objection. He was released by the judge to go get an ankle monitor pending his next court appearance, which is April 13th. Now, Mr. Velasquez is accused of chasing in his car, chasing the car that the alleged molester Goularte was in with his mother and his stepfather. Velasquez is accused of firing several rounds into that truck and ramming that truck. And the DA, I'll tell you what the DA has said about this, that it's an unfortunate, it's a very sad tragedy that Mr. Velasquez chose to take the law into his own hands. It is very sad. It's very sad, right? And then his attorney, well, let me back up a second here. Mr. Velasquez was not allowed out on bail. He's not. He's in custody because the judge found that it was clear and convincing evidence that there's a substantial likelihood that the release of Mr. Velasquez would result in great bodily injury, not just the named complaining witnesses. Those are the 3 occupants in the truck, including the alleged child molester, but also the Santa Clara residents at large. This case involves allegations of extreme recklessness to human life. So the judge, denied bail, and Mr. Velasquez is in custody. The alleged child molester is out on bail, right? He had to go get his ankle monitor, and he has another court hearing coming up too. Mr. Velasquez's attorney, trying to find his statement here. Hang on one second. Yeah, Mr. Velasquez's attorney, Mark Geragos, stated, if you believe what the DA says that the motivation is there anybody out there who would say to a father that this is not what you should do? A father who was not consulted when they released a perpetrator, the alleged molester, back into the public with 0 bail, yet they are holding Cain Velasquez on no bail. That is why people are disgusted, and rightfully so, with the criminal justice system. That's what Mark Geragos said, the attorney representing Cain Velasquez. So, the motivation to take this kind of action of allegedly ramming and firing into a truck, would any father, think that this is not what a father would do, right? Because if the child has been molested, apparently, allegedly, Mr. Velasquez took the law into his own hands. And the DA says it's a tragedy. His attorney says he's, disgusted, and rightfully so, with the criminal justice system for releasing this alleged pedophile. So, we're not going to make that this determination. We're not going to make that call at this point. We'll get into that in another video. We'll look at that case against this Harry Goularte, the alleged molester. And believe me, I get it. I understand the rage. I understand it. Having prosecuted those cases, the rage and the powerlessness that the parents and the relatives feel when this happens, okay? But, you know, Mr. Goularte, and I have to say this, Mr. Goularte is accused. He's not been convicted of molesting. He's been accused, okay? So let's get into the 11 counts, the felony counts that Cain Velasquez is facing. We'll take a look at the complaint now. I'll walk you through it. So, and please do subscribe, and please leave your questions and comments. And thank you so much for all of you who have subscribed. Thank you. I really appreciate it. Okay, so this is the case summary, and this lays out here counts 1 through 10. We'll get to it. The charges here on the next column over. The defendant is Cain Velasquez. The allegations, those are the special allegations I'll get to. Allegation effect, these are the additional years. I'll talk to you there about in a second, but let's get to the underlying 10 counts first. Okay, so this is in Superior Court, which is the trial court in California, in the county of Santa Clara, which is near San Jose area, right? It was filed March 2nd by the clerk of the Superior Court of the County of Santa Clara. So the people of the state of California, that's the plaintiff. Those are the prosecutors. That is the Santa Clara County DA's office versus Cain Velasquez. That's the defendant. It's a felony complaint. This is what they are alleging occurred, right? To arrest Mr. Velasquez, right? So these are the counts, the 10 counts. So I'm going to go through these. Count 1, on or about February 28, 2022, in the county of Santa Clara, state of California, the crime of attempted murder. Attempted, no one was killed. It was an attempted murder in violation of Penal Code 664, which is the attempt code, of 187, which is relating to murder. A felony was committed, Cain Velasquez, who did attempt to unlawfully, with malice aforethought, kill Harry Goularte. Harry Goularte is the alleged child molester. So count 1 is, did Mr. Velasquez attempt to murder Harry Goularte? Second, this is the allegation. We've got two allegations here. Second allegation is it further alleged that in the commission of the offense charged of the attempted murder, Cain Velasquez willfully, deliberately, and with premeditation attempted the murder of Harry Goularte. So premeditated murder, attempted murder, premeditated. Whenever you see the word premeditated, premeditation, that relates to murder in the first degree. You premeditated, you thought about it. Was he lying in wait? Was he outside in his truck waiting for Harry Goularte to leave his house? And that's the lying in wait. That's the premeditation. Did he plan to do this? And if he did, then it's attempted murder 1, first degree murder, attempted first degree murder, which carries significant prison time, and I'll talk to you about that. Here's another allegation. It's further alleged that in the commission of the felony, the murders, attempted murders here, Cain Velasquez personally and intentionally discharged a firearm, a .40 caliber handgun. So did he use a gun to do this? And again, these are just allegations. Doesn't mean it's true. Just allegations. So if he used a gun, then it's an additional allegation here and could carry significantly more prison time. Last paragraph, it's further alleged that in the commission, the defendant personally used a firearm, and because he used a firearm, he's not eligible for probation, right? So if he gets convicted of count 1, he's not eligible for probation, nor can his sentence be suspended, meaning delayed, right? You can't, they're not allowed to do that if he's convicted of count 1, okay? Count 2, well, there's a problem here with count 2. You guys got any ideas? Do you see anything that looks a little odd here? How about the date? It says on or about February 28, 2002. No, oops, it's 2022. So, I don't know about this count 2. You got to have the right date. Okay, the crime of shooting. Okay, did he shoot? Did Cain Velasquez shoot into a car, an occupied car? Well, there are the 3 occupants. There's the Harry Goularte, the alleged molester, his mother, Patricia, his stepfather, Paul Bender, right? So did Cain shoot into the car? If he did, that's count 2. And there's an additional allegation because of, did he inflict great bodily injury upon Paul Bender? Paul Bender, the stepfather, was the one who's driving the car, driving the truck. He's the one that got hit with the gunshots in the arm and in the torso. So that's great bodily injury. Gunshot wounds, great bodily injury. So that carries additional prison time. Count 3, on or about February 28, 2022, did Cain Velasquez assault anyone with a firearm? And in this case, it's Paul Bender. Well, assaulting, he shot him, right? So that could be, he allegedly shot him. That's assault with a firearm, count 3. And again, there's an additional allegation here. If he inflicted great bodily injury on Paul Bender, well, allegedly he shot him in the arm and in the torso. So that's count 3. Count 4, assault with a firearm on Patricia Goularte. That is the mother. So shooting at Patricia, shooting at the truck is assault of the occupants, right? So it's assault of Patricia and of Harry Goularte. Even though they weren't injured, it's still considered an assault. Okay, so that's count 4, and that's count 5 is assault with a firearm to Harry Goularte. So that's counts 4 and 5. Okay, count 6, 7, and 8 deal with assault with a deadly weapon. Well, what's the deadly weapon? The deadly weapon is Cain Velasquez's truck ramming into the truck driven by Paul Bender and had the Goulartes inside, right? So the deadly weapon is the car, okay? So count 6, assault with the deadly weapon on the person of Paul Bender. Well, Paul was in the car. Cain allegedly smashed into that car, so that's assault with a deadly weapon. Count 7, assault with a deadly weapon regarding Patricia Goularte. Was Patricia in the car? Did the car get rammed? That's assault with the car, with the deadly weapon. Count 8 is assault with a deadly weapon regarding Harry Goularte. So again, ramming the car, that's assault on Harry Goularte. Count alleged assault, right? Count 9, on or about February 28th, 2022, the crime of willfully discharging a firearm from a vehicle. That's shooting a gun from a car. So allegedly, Cain Velasquez shot a gun from his car. That is count 9. Count 10 is, did Cain Velasquez carry a loaded firearm with the intent to commit a felony? You know, that's another question. So those are the 10 counts. Now, the last paragraph here, any defendant who is convicted of or pleads guilty or no contest to any felony offense. No contest means you're not contesting the facts. You're still admitting that it happened. You're just not contesting. Guilty is you're admitting that you did commit all the facts that were alleged, okay? So who is convicted of or pleads guilty or no contest to any felony is required to provide a swab sample, which is the swab of the inside of the cheek for the DNA, the right thumbprint, the full palm print impression for each hand, and any blood samples or other samples required pursuant to the DNA and forensic database, okay? And then they signed it saying that the complaint plus the reports that were submitted established probable cause for the pretrial restraint of the defendant. So that was just to have him arrested. These are the 10 counts, okay, that he's facing. So let me go back to show you what the penalties are. So we're going to look at the case summary real quick here. All right, so the case summary. So this is telling the defendant, here are the charges and here are the potential penalties, okay? So on count 1, this is the attempted PC 664, the attempted murder. If he gets the premeditated, if he's convicted, if Cain Velasquez is convicted of attempted premeditated murder, which is attempted first-degree murder because it's premeditated, he's looking at life with the possibility of parole. It's been reported that he's looking at the maximum 20 years. That's not true. That relates to this allegation here, okay? But if he gets convicted of premeditated attempted murder, he's looking at life without the possibility of parole. If he gets convicted of the malice of forethought, the lesser, which would be considered attempted second-degree murder, he's looking at 5, 7, or 9 years. All right, so significant difference between premeditated and malice, right? A lower first-degree and second-degree murder attempt, but they're both attempts, right? No one was killed, so these are attempted. However, they still carry significant prison time, right? 5, 7, or 9 if it's second-degree murder, attempted second-degree, and life with possibility of parole if it's attempted first-degree murder. All right. So, and in addition, because of these allegations, he's looking, because he used a gun, allegedly used a gun, he's looking at an additional 20 years because in California, you use a gun. We have a saying, I'll read it to you. We have a saying, you use a gun, you're done. Use a gun and you're done in California. It's 10, 20 or life. So 10 years you get if you use a gun, 20 years if you fire a gun, 25 years to life if you kill or severely injure somebody with a gun. So that's why he's looking at, I'll call it an enhancement, the allegation here, an additional 20 years because a gun was involved, okay? Now, count 2 is relating to, make sure I got all this right in front of me here. Yeah, count 2 is shooting a gun into an occupied car. That's PC 246. He's looking at 3, 5, or 7 years. And he's looking at the additional allegation, which is of of causing great bodily injury, right? Because Paul Bender got hit in the arm and the torso, allegedly. So that's an additional 3 years. So count 3, 4, and 5 are assault. 3, 4, and 5 are assault with a deadly weapon. I'm sorry, assault with a firearm. 3, 4, and 5 are assault with a firearm. And he's looking at 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years on those. And the way this works is 2 years would be the lower. So if he has no priors, he's more looking at the lowers. 3 is the midterm, and obviously 4 is the higher term. And he's looking at the additional allegation here of 3 years because of great bodily injury resulted when he used assault with a firearm on Paul Bender, okay, as to count 3. So count 6, 7, and 8 relate to assault with a deadly weapon. That's the ramming his car into their car. He's looking at 2 years, 3 years, or 4 years on each one of those counts. And then on count 8, he is looking at, that's 6, 7, and 8. Okay, count 9, I'm sorry. He's looking at discharging a firearm from a car. He's looking at 16 months, 2 years, or 3 years. That's count 9. And then count 10 is the carrying a loaded firearm with the intent to commit a felony. That's count 10, carrying a loaded firearm with the intent to commit a felony. That's 16 months, 2 years, or 3 years. Okay, so what you can gather from all of that is Mr. Velasquez is looking at potentially a lot of prison time. Now, this is only the first stage, right? We had his first appearance and he was denied bail, right? We talked about that earlier. He's denied bail where the alleged child molester has been able to be released on bail. So the next step here, so the way this works is this is just a felony complaint. This is these are the accusations, the allegations, the 10 counts alleged against Mr. Velasquez. Now, the next thing that happens is there'll be a next appearance on April 12th where Cain Velasquez will appear with his attorney, and they'll probably set it for a preliminary hearing, which is the next step. And the preliminary hearing is when the district attorney, the DAs, put on their evidence, put their witnesses, the police officers, the eyewitnesses, probably the videotape of the ramming of the car, the shooting, any evidence that the DA has to back up these 10 counts, right? And it's just enough evidence to hold Mr. Velasquez over for trial. It's enough evidence for each one of these counts. And who makes that decision is a judge. It's not a jury. So a judge will be listening to all the evidence that the DA puts on, right? They're just going to put on enough evidence to make sure that the judge can find each one of these counts, that they can hold Cain Velasquez over for trial, right? And at that, during this preliminary hearing, you know, the defense attorney has an opportunity to cross-examine these witnesses, also to see what kind of evidence the prosecution is going to present on each one of these 10 counts, to see where the weaknesses are, right? What the defenses are, etc. Right? So it's really the prosecutor puts on their case here, all right? And again, a judge decides it's just enough evidence to show that these crimes were committed and that they can hold Cain Velasquez over for trial. Now, the judge could also decide that, you know what, there's not enough evidence on count 1, count 4, count 6, so I'm not going to hold him over on those. Or he could say, I'm not holding him over, he or she could say, I'm not holding him over on any of these, or maybe just one count. So it's, you know, the first the arraignment, the preliminary hearing, right? And then once they decide which counts they're going forward on, then Mr. Velasquez will be arraigned again on that, it's called an information, right? Which will lay out what the counts are that the prosecution's going to proceed on. And then at that point, there could be negotiations as to whether or not there could be a plea deal. And then if there isn't a plea deal agreed upon, then Mr. Velasquez can set it for trial, and it can go to trial, and then the DA has to prove each one of these counts, you know, has to prove each one of these counts to a jury, and the jury has to find beyond reasonable doubt on each one of these counts. That means all 12 jurors have to all agree to convict Mr. Velasquez on any one of these counts, all 12. Now, the defense, all the defense has to do is find one or more jurors that doesn't believe that Mr. Velasquez committed this. And I'm going to do a follow-up video on the next step and talk to you more about this, because there's a whole lot more to talk about. So I just want to say that, you know, I send prayers to the Velasquez family. I'm sure this is a very difficult, very, very difficult time for the family. And I'll probably also, if I can have a moment here, I'll try to also do a video on the underlying case involving the alleged pedophile. I'm sorry, the alleged molester, I should say, excuse me. The alleged molester, Harry Goularte, okay? So that's it for this video. So thank you very much for watching. Please do subscribe. Please hit the like button. Please share. You're welcome to leave questions or comments. I enjoy reading them and responding to them. And thank you very much for watching, and do subscribe.